These strategies were so deadly, the Nazis tried to erase them from history. Snow crunched beneath German boots as a night patrol moved through the outskirts of a ruined Polish village. Frost thickened on their rifle barrels, breaths puffing in white clouds. The wind whispered through broken windows like a warning. The men were tense, too tense for a routine sweep. And then one soldier suddenly froze. There, just 15 feet ahead, lay a German corporal face down in the snow. A neat, perfect hole drilled clean through the back of his helmet. No struggle, no chaos, just the quiet signature of a sniper who never missed. The patrol instantly crouched, scanning rooftops, alleys, shadows, anything that might hide a rifle barrel. But there was nothing. No footprints, no shell casings, no disturbance in the snow at all. One of the soldiers whispered shakily, war hier, sieht uns. He was here, he sees us. The officer ordered the men to retreat slowly, but before they took even 2 steps, a second body was spotted behind a frozen cart. Another impossible shot, through the gap between 2 planks less than 3 inches wide. This was not normal marksmanship. This was precision that defied logic. The Germans didn't know it yet, but they had just stepped into the hunting ground of the ghost sniper. Every legend begins somewhere, and this one began with fear. The kind that seeps under skin and lingers long after footsteps fade. The sniper understood this perfectly. A good shot eliminates one man. A perfect strategy eliminates entire units without firing more than a few rounds. His first rule was cruel in its brilliance. Don't strike until the enemy feels safe. Let them breathe, let them relax, let their shoulders loosen. Then take the shot that shatters their illusion of safety. The sniper had spent 2 days observing that exact patrol. He watched how the officer tapped his fingers on his belt when nervous, how the youngest soldier lagged behind, how they always paused near the same collapsed farmhouse before turning back. Predictable behavior became a map, and the map became a trap. But retention, in the battlefield or in storytelling, is about rhythm. So the sniper didn't kill immediately. He allowed them to return safely the first 2 nights. Tension built without them knowing. Their subconscious registered the danger, even if their minds didn't. And on the 3rd night, when they approached more casually, talking softly to keep warm, he struck. 1 shot. A perfect hit. The patrol shattered. The Germans believed the sniper was positioned on the roof across the street. They fired blindly, muzzle flashes lighting the snow. But the sniper was nowhere near that roof. He was beneath their feet, literally, inside a collapsed root cellar he had discovered the day before. He had quietly cleared debris, created a firing slit through old wood, and positioned himself in total darkness, smelling the cold earth inches from his face. When the Germans retreated in panic, the sniper didn't fire again. He didn't need to. Fear had already become his weapon. But the greatest detail the Germans missed was the one the sniper carefully planted. A single, deliberate footprint near the barn behind them, leading nowhere. A psychological signature. A suggestion that he had moved positions instantly. The footprint was bait, a seed of paranoia. Within 24 hours, rumors spread like wildfire. He can teleport. He shoots through walls. He is never where you expect him. The sniper knew exactly what he was doing. Because fear, real fear, does not come from death. It comes from not knowing when death is coming. And this was only the beginning.
Fear traveled faster than bullets. German intelligence officers tried to map the sniper's pattern, but every attempt made the picture more confusing. The kills were scattered, distances illogical, angles impossible. Each hit contradicted the last. The only consistent detail was the same firing signature, same striations, same perfect cold-bore accuracy. One man was doing the work of an entire sniper team. But the sniper was not a myth. He was flesh, blood, and bones feel cold. He lay in the forest now, chest pressed into frozen mud, breath controlled so precisely the steam blended with the fog rolling across the ground. His fingers burned with numbness. The skin on his cheek stuck to the metal of his rifle, but his eyes never blinked too long. He couldn't afford it. This mission was crucial. A German scouting trio had set out earlier, and the sniper knew they would return soon. What mattered now was not the shot, but the psychology before the shot. When the Germans approached, they kept formation tight, too tight. Fear had forced discipline into rigidity, and rigid soldiers are predictable. The sniper adjusted his aim slightly. He didn't target the lead man. He didn't target the officer in the center. He targeted the last man, the one who always drifted half a step behind, nervous, distracted. That man's loss would break formation instantly. The shot cracked. The soldier fell face first. The officer panicked. The sniper didn't move, didn't relocate immediately. That was his second psychological rule. Let the enemy reveal themselves before shifting position. The two remaining Germans shouted commands, scanning wildly. One knelt beside the fallen soldier, fingers trembling as he checked for signs of life. The sniper watched through his scope, not the man's face, but his shoulders. Shoulders reveal intent. These shoulders said panic was winning. Again, the sniper didn't shoot. He let fear take control. The Germans finally retreated backward toward a hollow log, exactly where the sniper wanted them. He fired his second shot, hitting the log, splintering it. A warning, a nudge. The officer dove right into the open area the sniper had pre-sighted hours earlier. The third shot ended him instantly. But here is where viewer retention truly spikes. The sniper didn't vanish into the woods like a ghost. He suffered. As he crawled backward, one elbow slipped on ice. His rifle stock hit a buried rock, loud, too loud. He froze, breath held, heart thudding. If any German patrol was nearby, that single noise could have given away his position. The camera of the scene focuses on his trembling breath steaming into the freezing air. His pulse, rhythm, slow, intentional, controlled through brutal discipline. Minutes passed before he dared move again. This vulnerability, this razor-thin margin between mastery and death was the emotional spike audiences crave. And when he finally reached safety behind a cluster of fallen trees, he didn't feel victorious. He felt cold, exhausted, his hands shaking from both adrenaline and frostbite creeping into fingers. But he forced his breathing to steady, forced his mind back to stillness, because the Germans would be back, and he needed to stay ahead of their fear before that fear evolved into strategy.
Night had swallowed the forest whole, but the tension lingering in the cold air felt alive, breathing, watching, crawling between the trees like a second predator. The Germans believed they had cornered a phantom. They thought their tightened perimeter, doubled patrols, and constant flare drops would force the hidden sniper into panic. But panic was a luxury he had surrendered months ago. Tonight, only one thing mattered, staying unseen long enough to strike where it hurt most. The wind shifted again, soft, trembling. A distant metallic rattle. A boot scraped frozen earth. He froze, not because he feared death, but because he respected the rules of the hunt. Movement, even the slightest wrong movement, could rewrite fate in an instant. He let his pulse slow until it almost felt like it had disappeared. He became part of the ground, part of the night, part of the shape that nature itself had sculpted. A German patrol crept closer, their boots crunching rhythmically, almost too loud for soldiers who believed they were stalking a ghost. But the sniper noticed something new tonight. These men walked differently. Their heads moved less. Their rifles pointed outward with precision, as though someone had coached them carefully. Someone who'd studied long-distance kills. Someone who understood his tactics. They had brought in a counter-sniper. And suddenly, for the first time in days, a sliver of risk rippled through him. He inhaled slowly, letting cold air freeze inside his chest. He scanned the tree line without moving his head. Only his eyes shifted, millimeters at a time. Nothing, no glint, no shine, no silhouette obvious enough to betray an enemy watching from the shadows. But he felt it. It was a sensation no training manual taught, only survival did. That primal throb in the back of the skull. The instinct that whispers, you're being measured, judged, targeted. The hunter sensed another hunter. He needed confirmation. With the gentlest breath, he tilted a leaf beside his boot, just enough to catch a faint shimmer of moonlight. If the hidden counter-sniper was watching through a scope, even the smallest unusual reflection could trigger a micro-adjustment, and a micro-adjustment leaves a signature. For 5 long seconds, nothing happened. Then he saw it, far left, a tiny flicker, not light, movement, a shadow adjusting by a fraction of an inch. There he was. The Germans had finally sent someone worthy. His heartbeat steadied, his nerves sharpened. Every piece of training, every instinct, every scar whispered instructions in perfect harmony. Kill the counter-sniper first. Remove the eyes that can see you. He slid deeper into the forest floor, letting the mud claim him again. His rifle rested on a patch of moss that swallowed sound. He did not shoulder it fast. He did not shift aggressively. He moved as if he were drifting in water. Slow, precise, inevitable. The German counter-sniper waited, still scanning, still patient. Good. This wouldn't be a one-sided hunt. This would be a duel. He measured the angle, the distance, the wind, the sway of the branches, the exact moment when the German scope drifted half an inch too far right. That was the window. A window small enough an average soldier wouldn't even recognize it, but to him it was wide open. He exhaled slowly. A branch cracked behind him. Instant danger, instant change, instant threat. The German patrol from earlier had circled wider than expected. One soldier now stood less than 5 steps away. His heart should have pounded. It didn't. Instead, he allowed instinct to take command. Without lifting his head, without making a sound, he let his hand drift toward a fist-sized rock half buried in dirt. The soldier leaned down, eyes squinting in suspicion. One wrong tilt of the flashlight would expose the sniper's boot. One wrong breath would give away his position. One blink could end everything. He tossed the rock, not far, not fast, just enough to tap a trunk 10 meters away. The soldier jerked toward the sound instantly. The counter-sniper reacted too, scope shifting at the distraction. Perfect. The American sniper seized the moment. His rifle rose a hair, his breathing stopped, his muscles locked. The shot he fired wasn't rushed, wasn't wild, wasn't hurried. It was cold, clean, controlled. The German counter-sniper dropped without even finishing his inhaled breath. Before the nearby soldier could turn, another suppressed round cut him down, clean through the throat, no sound except a muffled thud of his body hitting the dirt. The forest went still again, but not peaceful. This time, the stillness meant something had changed. The Germans had thrown their best at him, their smartest, their calmest, their most disciplined hunter. And he had beaten him in a contest of silence, patience, and precision. But this victory, unlike the others, didn't bring relief. It brought something heavier, awareness. They would not underestimate him then. They would escalate, and tomorrow's hunt would be nothing like today's.
The soldiers above the ridge continued searching, their voices sharpening into desperation. The longer they failed to locate him, the more reckless they became. Recklessness was good. It meant mistakes, and mistakes meant openings. He crawled along the drainage ditch until the mud thinned and a hollow beneath a fallen oak opened into view. The space was so cramped, he had to angle his rifle sideways just to squeeze through. But inside, the darkness felt dense, insulated, and safe enough to think clearly again. He wiped mud from his eyes and listened. No dogs near him now. No boots pressing the earth too close. The closest danger came from the tripwire field behind him, where soldiers still barked orders back and forth. He needed to shift the hunt again, control the narrative, break their momentum. If he stayed hidden, they'd call reinforcements, maybe even bring artillery. He had to reduce their numbers before that happened. His eyes traced the ridge. The moon was low, the fog thickening into a soft curtain. Perfect. Fog was a friend. Fog turned bullets into ghosts and movement into illusions. Fog made even trained soldiers doubt their senses, and tonight, doubt would be more lethal than any bullet. He moved along the base of the ridge until he reached a patch of tall, dead grass. Lying flat, he let the wind push the blades over his back, disguising every contour of his body. Through the strands, he saw 3 German soldiers standing near a half-burned tree. 2 faced outward. 1 knelt, adjusting the pins on a flare launcher. The kneeling one was the weak link. He positioned his rifle, the barrel resting silently on a stone. His finger found the cold metal of the trigger. His breathing slowed in perfect increments, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. This wasn't just a shot. This was a message. He needed the kill to look clean, precise, and impossible to identify. The shot fired, a whisper, not a bang. The kneeling soldier collapsed instantly, his body folding in on itself like fabric. One of the standing soldiers spun around, shouting. The other fired blindly into the fog, bullets whistling in wild arcs. He didn't shoot again. He waited. Confusion grew. Panic spread. Boots scuffed backward. One soldier ran to check the body. The other took cover behind a burned tree, shaking. He let the fear rot them from inside. Minutes passed. A new squad entered the ridge, shouting questions. Their flashlights flickered through the fog, sweeping for silhouettes. Every beam of light created a new blind spot. Every blind spot created opportunity. He moved sideways through the grass, so quietly the earth didn't even whisper under him. When he reached the base of a boulder, he pressed his back against it and closed his eyes. He wasn't resting. He was sensing again, mapping the forest by sound alone. He counted. 4 soldiers at the ridge, 3 new arrivals, 2 near the flare pit, 1 officer giving orders, 10 total. He could break them if he isolated them. Fear turned groups into individuals, and individuals into prey. He grabbed a smooth stone and flicked it against a tree trunk 30 feet away. The sound wasn't loud, but in fog, echoes stretch and bend like ghosts. A soldier fired instantly. Another screamed at him to stop. The officer rushed forward, kneeling beside the dead man he'd shot. Confusion mushroomed, blame tangled, and the more they shouted at each other, the more invisible he became. He used their chaos like a weapon. He crawled to a new vantage point, a shallow dip between 2 roots. From here, he had a clear view of the officer. Officers are spine and structure. Remove the spine, and the body collapses. He fired. The officer toppled backward, his hat flying off into the mud. One of the German soldiers dropped his rifle and ran. Not a tactical retreat, not a reposition, pure panic. The others shouted after him, their formation crumbling. He didn't chase the running soldier. Panic spreads faster when allowed to survive. Instead, he shifted again, moving toward a large outcrop that overlooked the ridge from above. The climb was steep and dangerous, but every handhold felt familiar, as if the forest itself guided him upward. From the top, he saw everything. The confusion, the fear, the sloppy attempts to regroup. They looked less like a trained unit now and more like scattered prey stumbling in circles. He could end them all, one by one, slowly, methodically, perfectly. But he didn't fire. Not yet. Something deeper whispered caution. Something primal. Something that had nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with survival. Vibrations. He felt them through the stone beneath his palms. Heavy ones. Distant, but approaching. Treads. Engines. Machines. The Germans weren't hunting him with patrols anymore. They were bringing armor. And the forest trembled with its arrival.
The vibrations grew stronger, steady, metallic, undeniable. Tanks. Not many, but enough to shift the balance of the hunt instantly. Light recon armor most likely. Fast, maneuverable, perfect for rooting out anything hiding between the trees. The kind of machines designed to crush ghosts. He lay flat on the outcrop, letting the tremors roll through his chest. He needed clarity. Tanks weren't meant for dense forest operations unless command had lost patience. That meant the Germans were done containing him. They wanted annihilation. Below him, soldiers scrambled to form a new perimeter around the ridge. Their shouts were sharper now, their formations tighter. They had abandoned subtlety. They were preparing for brute force. He scanned the scene. If he stayed here, the tanks would corner him. If he shifted lower, he'd be trapped between infantry and armor. If he tried fleeing deeper into the forest, dogs would come. He needed a third option. His eyes traced the terrain. A dried creek bed, a cluster of boulders, a steep slope leading toward a hollow valley. The slope was key. Too steep for tanks to descend safely. Too narrow for large squads to navigate quickly. Too curving for direct lines of fire. Escape wasn't an option, but leading them into a kill zone was. He descended silently, gripping vines to keep the rocks from sliding. One loose stone would echo like a gunshot in the quiet. When he reached the bottom, he pressed his ear to the ground again. The tank treads had split, one moving right, one left. They were trying to flank him. Good. That meant the valley was still open. He sprinted, not fast, not loud, but smooth, efficient, gliding across mud and roots with practiced control. The fog thickened again, swallowing him whole. Every 10 steps, he paused, listening. Every 5 breaths, he recalculated. Behind him, the forest lit up. Flares, flashlights, and tank headlights slicing the fog apart. Soldiers shouted his position even when they hadn't seen him. Panic had become their compass. He reached the valley entrance. Perfect. A natural choke point surrounded by high rock walls. The kind of terrain even tanks fear, because angles become unpredictable and echoes distort distance. He positioned himself behind a crooked slab of stone, its surface scarred by decades of storms. From here, he could see everything. The left tank approaching first, its engine coughing as branches scraped metal. Soldiers rushing downhill in staggered formation. Dogs barking in erratic bursts. He checked his ammo. Not much left. He checked the slope angle. Steep enough. He checked the wind. Favorable. He placed his rifle on a flat portion of rock, adjusting by inches until the barrel aligned with the valley curve. The tank turned the corner. Its tread slipped on wet mud. The metal groaned under its own weight. The machine hesitated, not because of the sniper, but because even armored vehicles obey the laws of terrain. He fired, not at the tank, but at the soldier walking beside it. The bullet cracked through fog and silence. The soldier fell sideways, hitting the tank tread. The machine jerked, slipping on the corpse, lurching at the wrong angle. Its weight shifted, just enough. The tank slid. Not far, not dramatic, just enough to wedge itself between 2 boulders, its turret unable to turn fully. Perfect. The second tank appeared on the ridge above, its commander shouting for angles, for line of fire, for visual confirmation of the target. He fired again, this time at a tree branch above the commander. The branch snapped, slamming into the tank hatch, knocking the officer inside. Panic spread. Soldiers dove for cover. Some fired into the fog, others scrambled to reposition. The tanks rumbled, confused, disoriented. Someone yelled for retreat. Someone else shouted for artillery. A third voice begged for medical help. He disappeared behind a fallen log, caught his breath, and pressed a hand to the earth again. The vibrations were smaller now, confused, aimless, beaten. He didn't fire again. He didn't need to. The forest had swallowed the Germans whole. Their perfect formation had crumbled into fear and noise. Their tanks had turned against them. Their tactics had failed. Their confidence had shattered. He had survived the hunt. But as he climbed the final ridge, breath steady, steps deliberate, he felt something unexpected. Exhaustion. Not physical, not emotional, something deeper. The kind that settles in the bones after too many nights where death breathes down your neck. He stopped at the crest. Looking down at the valley, he turned into a graveyard of failed intentions. Smoke drifted, echoes faded, silence reclaimed the earth. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't a legend. He was something else entirely. A man who refused to die. A man the Nazis desperately tried to erase. A man the forest itself protected because he adapted, evolved, and outthought every enemy thrown his way. Tonight wasn't victory. Tonight was survival. And survival was his true weapon.